Okay, so imagine this. You're applying to a university in the UK, your dream school, right? And all these other applicants' videos are just like suspiciously perfect.
Yeah.
And it turns out some people are using AI, specifically deepfake technology, to like kind of boost their chances.
Hmm.
We're going to dive into an article from The Guardian today to like figure this out. It's called Automated Interviews Attract Deepfake Student Applicants.
Okay.
And it's written by Richard Adams.
That's pretty wild. This is happening now.
Yeah.
This is not sci-fi.
No.
We're talking about replacing real faces and real voices with ones generated by AI in these application videos.
So for those of us who like aren't totally familiar with deepfakes, how does this actually work?
Right.
Is it like a filter or something?
No, it's much more sophisticated than a filter.
Okay.
Imagine an AI being trained on tons and tons of videos and audio of a particular person.
Right.
Enough for it to learn like all the mannerisms, all the speech patterns, and then you can use that AI to create a video of that person saying or doing something they never actually did.
So theoretically, you could have someone who barely speaks English suddenly like acing an interview in a British accent.
Exactly. And that's what universities are starting to worry about.
Right.
The article talks about this company called Enrolly,
Okay.
and they handle these automated video interviews for a lot of UK universities. And they've already found a few cases where they think deepfakes were being used.
Hold on. Universities are using automated interviews now?
Yeah, more and more, especially for international students.
Oh, okay.
It's just way cheaper and easier to do than flying someone out for an in-person interview.
I guess that makes sense, but then it also opens the door for this kind of like tech trickery.
Exactly. And it's becoming a little bit of like a cat and mouse game.
Mm-hmm.
So Enrolly is now using facial recognition passport photo comparisons to try and catch the deepfakes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's even been called the future of fraud.
So wait a second. How can they actually tell the difference between like a deep fake and just someone who looks a little different in their video than they do in their passport photo?
Right. Well, facial recognition software can analyze really subtle details in the video.
Okay.
Like the way light reflects off of the skin or how facial muscles move.
Mm-hmm.
And then they compare those details to like official documents like passports to look for inconsistencies.
Okay. That's actually really impressive.
Yeah.
But I can't help but wonder like how accurate that really is.
Right.
What if someone is just really good at mimicking accents or they have like a really good makeup artist, you know?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And that's why this is such a headache for universities.
Right.
They constantly have to adapt and improve their systems to stay ahead.
Right.
This article even quotes the head of services at Enrolly, and he compares it to something out of a spy film.
It does sound a little bit Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
So let's get real for a second. How widespread is this actually?
Okay.
Are we talking about like a few isolated incidents or is this becoming the norm?
Well, right now it's still pretty rare.
Okay.
The article says that Enrolly caught 30 potential deepfakes out of about 20,000 interviews.
So not an epidemic?
Not an epidemic, but it's enough to raise some serious concerns.
Yeah, I see. So it's not like every other applicant is using a deep fake, but even a few cases can like create a sense of distrust, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, how can universities be sure they're admitting the right students if this technology is out there?
Yeah, that is the big question, and it gets even more complicated when you factor in what's at stake for these universities.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What are the potential consequences if they don't get this right?
Okay, so UK universities rely heavily on international students' tuition.
Right.
It's a major source of income for them.
Yeah.
But to be able to admit these students, they need to keep their sponsor licenses, and that means being very careful about who they accept.
So if they admit someone who can't get a visa, then it looks bad on the university.
Exactly. Too many rejected visa applications, and they risk losing their license altogether,
Oh, wow.
which would be a huge financial hit.
So they're walking this tightrope between attracting international students and making sure they meet all the requirements.
Right.
And this whole deepfake situation just like throws another wrench in the works.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance for sure.
Yeah.
And it's forcing them to rethink how they do admissions.
So what are they doing about it? Are they just like throwing more technology at the problem?
It's not that simple.
Okay.
While they are using better detection methods,
Uh-huh.
the article also suggests that they may need to rethink using automated interviews so much.
So like getting rid of them?
Potentially,
Yeah.
or at least finding ways to add more human oversight to the process.
All right.
Maybe have a person review the videos that are flagged by the AI, or even add some kind of live element to the interview.
So finding a way to balance the efficiency of the technology with human judgment.
Exactly. And that might also mean being more transparent with applicants about how their applications are being reviewed.
So being upfront about the fact that they're using these detection systems and what they're looking for and what the consequences are for trying to cheat.
Right. It's about building trust
Yeah.
and making sure everyone understands the rules.
Maybe it's also about reevaluating what we value in the admissions process. Instead of just focusing on grades and test scores, maybe we should start looking more holistically at applicants.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
Maybe this whole deepfake situation can be a chance to have a bigger conversation about what we're really looking for in students.
Yeah.
What skills and qualities and experiences matter to us,
Right.
and how can we assess those fairly?
Yeah, maybe it's less about catching people trying to cheat and more about creating a system that's harder to cheat.
Exactly. Shifting the focus from detection to prevention.
Right.
And that requires a change in mindset for both universities and applicants.
It's a big challenge, but I think it's important because ultimately the goal is to find the best students, right?
Yes.
The ones who really want to learn and who will do well in a challenging environment.
Right. And if we can make a system that values honesty and integrity, then maybe this deepfake problem won't be such a big deal.
So this whole situation is really a symptom of a much bigger problem.
I think it's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
We need to think critically about how technology is changing our world and how we can use it ethically.
All right, so we've talked about what deepfakes are and why they're a problem in university admissions. But let's get practical. What can universities actually do about it?
Okay.
Besides just getting better detection technology, what are some concrete steps they can take?
Well, the article doesn't give a ton of specific solutions,
Okay.
but does say that universities might have to rethink their whole approach to admissions, especially when it comes to those automated interviews.
Like we were talking about.
Yeah, like maybe getting rid of them altogether.
Okay.
Or at least finding ways to make sure a real person is involved in the process.
Right.
Like having someone look over the videos that are flagged by the AI, or even adding in some kind of live part to the interview.
So finding that balance between the efficiency of technology and the human touch.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that might also mean being more upfront with the applicants about how they're reviewing the applications. Letting them know they're using these detection systems and what they're looking for and what will happen if they try to cheat.
So it's all about building trust and making sure everyone's on the same page.
Right.
And maybe it's also about changing what we value in admissions.
Yeah.
Instead of just looking at grades and test scores, maybe it's time to look at the whole applicant.
I think that's a great point. This deepfake thing could be a chance for us to have a bigger conversation about what we really want in our students.
Yeah.
What are the skills and qualities and experiences that are important to us? And how can we look at those fairly?
Right. Maybe it's less about catching people cheating and more about making a system that's harder to cheat.
Exactly. Shifting from detecting cheating to preventing it.
And that means a change in how both universities and applicants think about things.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a big challenge, but I think it's important because in the end, the goal is to find the best students, right?
Right. The ones who are passionate about learning.
Yes.
And who can succeed in a tough academic environment.
Exactly. And if we can create a system that encourages honesty, then this whole deepfake problem might become a non-issue.
So this whole deepfake situation is really just a symptom of a much bigger problem.
Yeah, I think so. It's a wake-up call.
A wake-up call to what?
To think carefully about how technology is shaping our world and how we can use it in a way that's ethical.
Okay, so we've talked about what deepfakes are and why they're a problem for universities, but let's get practical here. What can universities actually do about it?
Right.
Besides just investing in better detection technology, what are some real steps they can take?
Well, the article doesn't give a ton of specifics.
Okay.
But it does suggest that universities might need to reconsider how much they rely on those automated interviews. Maybe even getting rid of them altogether.
Okay.
Or at least finding ways to bring in more human oversight.
Right.
Maybe have a real person review the videos that are flagged by the AI. Or even add some kind of live interactive component to the interview.
So balancing the efficiency of the technology with human judgment.
Exactly. And that might also mean being more transparent with applicants about how their applications are being evaluated.
Right. So telling them up front that they're using these detection systems and what they're looking for and what will happen if they try to cheat.
Right. It's all about establishing trust and making sure everyone knows the rules.
And maybe it's also about taking a fresh look at what we value in admissions.
Yeah.
Instead of just focusing on grades and test scores, maybe it's time to start looking at the whole applicant.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
This whole deepfake situation could actually be an opportunity to have a bigger conversation about what we really want to see in our students.
Yeah.
What are the skills and qualities and experiences that are important to us? And how can we evaluate those in a way that's fair?
Yeah. Maybe it's less about catching people trying to game the system and more about creating a system that's harder to cheat.
Exactly. Shifting the focus from detection to prevention.
Right.
And that means changing the way both universities and applicants think.
It's a big challenge, but I think it's worth it because ultimately the goal is to find the best students, right?
Absolutely.
The ones who are truly passionate about learning.
Yes.
And who will thrive in a challenging academic setting.
Exactly. And if we can build a system that encourages honesty and integrity, then maybe this deepfake problem won't even be an issue.
So this whole deepfake situation is really just a sign of a much bigger problem.
I think so. It's a wake-up call.
Wake-up call to what?
A wake-up call to think critically about how technology is changing our world and how we can use it ethically and responsibly.
Now let's move on to the bigger picture. This technology goes way beyond just university admissions, right?
Absolutely. We're seeing deepfakes being used in everything from politics and entertainment to marketing and advertising.
And that opens up a whole new set of ethical questions.
Like, how do we prevent deepfakes from being used to spread misinformation or to sway public opinion?
Or to damage someone's reputation.
Those are all real concerns.
Yeah.
And there are no easy answers.
So it feels like universities are stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
They want to be efficient, but they also have to be like super careful. So what does this mean for the future of admissions?
It brings up some really big questions about authenticity.
Right.
Not just the university applications, but like in a world where technology is making it hard to tell what's real and what's fake.
Yeah, you're right. This isn't just about kids trying to cheat their way into college. It's about trust in the digital age. Like if anyone can just make a perfect video or picture, how do we even know what to believe?
Exactly. And it's not even just about the technology itself.
Right.
It's about why people are using it.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of get it. Like the pressure to get into a good university is huge. And when it seems like everyone else is presenting this like perfect version of themselves, it's tempting to want to like even the playing field, even if it means bending the rules a little.
It's a slippery slope, though.
Yeah.
Because once you start accepting these fake versions of reality, where do you draw the line?
So what's the solution? Do we just like give up on technology altogether? Go back to handwritten essays and in-person interviews?
I don't think it's about giving up on technology. It's about using it responsibly.
Okay.
And that means having some serious talks about ethics, about what's okay and what's not.
You're right. It's not just a tech problem. It's a societal problem.
Yeah.
And it's not something universities can solve on their own.
Absolutely. It takes everyone working together.
Yeah.
We need to teach students about what it means to use this technology.
Okay.
We need people making the rules to create guidelines and regulations.
Right.
And we need tech companies to come up with ways to detect and prevent these deepfakes.
It sounds like a huge task, but I guess we've dealt with stuff like this before with other technologies. Like when the internet first came out,
Right.
everyone was worried about privacy and security, and it took a while to figure out how to handle those problems.
That's a good comparison.
Yeah.
Every new technology comes with its own set of challenges and opportunities.
Right.
And deepfakes are no different. We have to figure out how to use them for good while minimizing the risks.
Okay, so the article also mentions that right now, other ways of cheating are actually more common than deepfakes.
Yeah.
Things like having someone else take the test for you or answer the interview questions off camera.
Right. And that's important because it shows that technology isn't the only thing at play here.
Yeah.
People will always find ways to bend the rules no matter what tools they have.
So it's not like deepfakes are some magic solution for cheaters. They're just one tool in a whole toolbox.
Exactly. And it shows that universities need to look at this problem from all sides. It's not enough to just focus on technology. They also need to think about the cultural and societal pressures that make students want to cheat in the first place.
Like that pressure to get into the best university.
Right.
That feeling that your whole future depends on this one application.
Exactly. And until we address those root causes, we're probably going to see students keep finding new ways to cheat the system, whether it's with deepfakes or some other technology we haven't even thought of yet.
So this deepfake thing, it's really a symptom of a much bigger problem.
I'd say it's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
We need to be thinking about how technology is shaping our world.
Right.
And how we can use it ethically and responsibly.
Okay, so we've talked about what deepfakes are and why they're a problem in university admissions.
Yeah.
But let's get practical. What can universities actually do about it?
Okay.
Besides just getting better at detecting them, What are some concrete steps they can take?
The article doesn't get into a lot of detail about solutions, but it does say that universities might need to completely rethink their whole approach to admissions,
Okay.
especially when it comes to those automated interviews.
Like getting rid of them.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least finding ways to have a real person be more involved.
Okay.
Maybe having a human review the videos that are flagged by the AI,
Yeah.
or maybe even adding some kind of live element to the interview.
So it's about finding that balance between the efficiency of technology and human judgment.
Exactly. And it might also mean being more open with applicants about how their applications are being looked at.
So telling them up front that they're using these detection systems and what
Yeah.
they're looking for and what the consequences are for trying to cheat.
Right. It's about building trust and making sure everyone's clear on the rules.
And maybe it's also time to rethink what we value in the admissions process.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just focusing on grades and test scores, maybe we should look at the whole applicant.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
This whole deepfake thing could be a chance for a bigger conversation about what we really want in our students.
Yeah, exactly.
What are the skills and qualities and experiences that matter most?
Mm-hmm.
And how can we evaluate those fairly?
Yeah. Maybe it's less about catching people trying to cheat and more about making a system that's harder to cheat in the first place.
Exactly. Shifting the focus from detection to prevention.
Right.
And that means changing the way both universities and applicants think about things.
It's a big challenge, but I think it's an important one because ultimately the goal is to find the best students, right?
Absolutely.
The ones who really want to learn
Yes.
and who will do well in a challenging environment.
Exactly. And if we can create a system that encourages honesty and integrity, then maybe this whole deepfake problem will sort of disappear.
So this whole deepfake thing is really just a sign of a much bigger issue.
I think so. It's a wake-up call.
Yeah, what kind of wake-up call?
A wake-up call to think critically about how technology is changing our world and how we can use it ethically and responsibly.
It's kind of like we're entering this whole new world where we have to be constantly questioning what we see and hear.
Yeah, it definitely challenges how we think about truth and authenticity.
Right.
But I also think it's a chance for us to get better at dealing with the digital world.
Like becoming more careful about the information we consume.
Exactly. We need to be more critical of the sources we rely on and double-check information. And just be aware that things can be manipulated. It's like we need new digital literacy skills.
And maybe it also means thinking more about what we share online,
But
because it could be used to make deepfakes.
that's a really good point. We're all adding to the data that these AI systems use.
Yeah.
So we need to be careful about our digital footprint and how it could be used in the future.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we have.
We talked about the tech behind deepfakes, the ethical issues for universities, and the broader problems for society. But before we finish up, I want to bring it back to our listener. Let's say you're out there thinking about applying to university or just trying to make sense of this digital world.
Right.
What's the main takeaway from all of this?
I think the most important thing is to just be aware,
Okay.
to understand that this technology exists and to know it can be used for good or bad,
Right.
and to be ready to encounter it in your own life.
So not to be afraid, but just to be informed and to think critically.
Exactly. And I think it's also important to remember that technology is just a tool.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to us how we use it and what role it plays in our lives.
And maybe this whole deepfake situation can be a chance for us to have some important conversations
I agree.
about what we value, how we build trust, and how we create a digital future that works for everyone.
That's a great way to put it.
Yes.
It's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hopeful that we can rise to the occasion.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into the world of deepfakes.
Yes,
It's been a fascinating and at times kind of unsettling journey.
it has. But hopefully our listener has come away with a better understanding of this issue
Yeah.
and some things to think about when it comes to the role of technology in our lives.
And who knows? Maybe this conversation will continue long after you finish listening.
I hope so.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay authentic.